Zero to One is one of the most recommended books on the planet for a startup or an early business, from multi-billionaires like Jeff Bezos to people like Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey. All of these people have at some point in their careers recommended this book to people that are looking to start a business. Here's why. From the first sentence in the book, the author Peter Thiel says that the next Bill Gates will not build an operating system. The next Mark Zuckerberg will not build a social media network. And just like that, from that point, I was already hooked into the book. He says that every great moment in business happens only once. But what does that mean? Does it mean that the rest of us cannot be successful? Does it mean that the rest of us cannot create multi-billion-dollar empires like Facebook or Google? Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, believed exactly that. He believed that all that could be done had already been done. All that could be invented, all that could be created had already been created. Peter Thiel, the author of Zero to One, believes otherwise. He believes that technology is the way to go. And I challenge you right now, close your eyes. Picture the future. What do you see? All the diseases that we are faced with right now having a cure. I see flying cars. All of these things are really up to us to create. And that is really all that Zero to One, the book, is about. The book is about how can we create companies that make new things. The answer is through startup thinking. A startup is the largest group of people that you can get together to build a different future. An online currency, like say cryptocurrency or PayPal, electric cars like Tesla. There are two kinds of startups, there are two kinds of companies. There are companies that are in perfect competition, and there are companies that are monopolistic. Perfect competition is basically in economics a principle where all the customers for a particular market of a certain product or services are distributed equally among all the suppliers of that product or service. Take for example a street that is filled with hair salons. If all those hair salons distribute equally the number of customers that would like to get their hair done, then those salons are in perfect competition. And in economics, that is an ideal scenario. However, there are also companies that are monopolistic, and so monopolistic companies or monopolies are companies that are the sole dominator of a market in which they exist. For instance, Google. So Google is the sole dominator of the internet search engine industry and takes up over 68% of that market, and that is simply a monopoly. And that is why all happy companies are different. Why do you think that 60% of all restaurants fail within their first year? And the reason is because of competition. Competition lowers the amount of profit that a business can make, because all the profits are shared equally among all the companies that are supplying essentially the same product or service, and therefore a startup can really find it difficult to survive. So, but then what is the answer? The answer is to create companies that are monopolies. Peter Thiel says that all happy companies are essentially monopolies. Tesla, SpaceX, Google, Facebook. So then how can we create companies that are like that? And the answer is, we don't know. Yeah, well, we have no idea. I mean, look at a company like Apple.
And the rest of our lives making them for our friends. And that's how we got into this. We didn't think about starting a company. We were just doing it for ourselves and then our friends, and then the circle got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now there's 25 million people.
But then look what Apple has become right now. Peter Thiel does not just leave us there. He gives us 4 guiding principles that we can follow to understand if the idea for a business or a startup we have is good or not. And the acronym that I have formulated for that is PENB. That's the best I could come up with. The first item on the list is proprietary technology. For a company to become a monopoly, the proprietary technology behind this company or this startup should be at least 10 times better than the competition. Take for example Tesla. Tesla's electric cars are so far ahead, I mean as I'm making this video, are so far ahead of the competition that they are literally buying parts to make those cars from Tesla itself. The second is economies of scale. So as the business grows, the corresponding increase in expenditure should not be equal to the corresponding growth in the company. Facebook, right? The more users Facebook gets, it does not necessarily mean that Facebook as a company has to, increase the number of employees or build more offices in every country, because the company is essentially, an online company. And so that means that it takes advantage of the internet, and even if they maintain the same number of staff, they can still be able to serve a very wide array of customers. And that is why they can take advantage of that growth to strengthen their place in the market. The third is networking effects. Networking effects in economics means that the business grows more the more people that use it, and it becomes stronger or better the more people that use it. Take for instance again Facebook, right? So the more users that Facebook gets, the more people are likely to join Facebook, because the whole reason I joined Facebook is because many of my friends were already on Facebook and I wanted a way to communicate to them. The fourth and final one is branding. Look at a brand like Apple, right? Apple recently released the AirPods Pro Max, and they did not even put their logo anywhere on the product, but instantly you can just recognize the product, right? But when Apple was just getting started, from the time when Steve Jobs just came back into the company after he was fired, and he was trying to rebuild and reestablish Apple into the market, Apple started creating MacBooks with Apple logos that lit up, right? Because it was a way to strengthen the brand among customers. So then, how can we make sure that the proprietary technology of the companies that we are creating is better than the competition? At the early start of the 21st century, most individuals decided that the way forward for the planet was to go green. In just 2012 alone, over 40 solar companies in the United States filed for bankruptcy. Over 40. And that says a lot, because you look at a company like Tesla, and Tesla is a green company, right? But it is still standing. I guess we'll explore that a little later on. But for now, we're talking about secrets, right? Not the kinds of secrets that you keep from your spouses, but we're talking about secrets because the answer to the question of how we can create proprietary technology that is 10 times better, how we can create companies that are monopolies, essentially we have to know something that nobody else knows about the business or the industry that we're looking to get into. You have to know something that nobody else knows. Those solar companies that we're starting all had the same technology, and we're all creating products that were more or less the same. But competition from China came in and created those products exactly the same, but at rates that were much, much cheaper. If we can find secrets in the industry that we are looking to get into, if we can do things differently and find things that nobody else understands about those industries, then we can create a monopoly. And so what is the case for secrets? How do we get secrets? And how we get secrets is through asking questions. What is nobody telling me about this industry? What is nature not telling me? What are people not allowed to talk about? Some of these secrets hide in plain sight. Look at a company like Airbnb. That was like a no-brainer, right? It was almost an obvious kind of business, but you realize that many people would have been afraid to talk about a company like that. The company has tried to get some kind of success because they went after something that many people would have written off. Look at a company like Uber, right? Many people would have thought that that there's already a huge population of like cabs and taxis. So who would want to to order for a taxi when you can just walk out and like get into a taxi? But then that was like a secret that the founders realized and they knew. And right now, the company became really, really successful. And so that is the case about secrets, is that like some of them are really obvious and hide in our plain sight, but it's really about us trying to ask as many questions as possible. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings the first part of the book to an end. And so in the next part of the book, Peter Thiel talks about the best strategies or how a company can choose a strategy to market, distribute, and sell their product. He talks about 3 strategies when it comes to distribution of a product. He talks about complex sales, he talks about personal sales, and he talks about distribution doldrums. And so when it comes to choosing such a strategy, the most important things to consider are the customer lifetime value vis-a-vis the customer acquisition value. The customer lifetime value is how much would this customer spend in their entire life on your company or your products. And the customer acquisition value is how much money does it cost you to acquire this single customer. Take for instance a company that makes laundry soap. Now the reason why most companies of this nature decide to do adverts on television, it's because the customer lifetime value might really be small. Personally, I don't remember the last time I bought laundry soap, right? And so if this company was spending, say, about 300,000 on every sales representative to come and talk to me in person to convince me to use this particular brand of laundry soap over another, it does not make a lot of sense, because in my entire life I don't think I will buy laundry soap for that same amount of money, right? And so that is why a company like that would just choose to do advertisements on television, because then they can reach a very wide audience and try to push out their message as much as possible. And then the customer lifetime value versus the customer acquisition value kind of even out. But then when we talk about complex sales are for products that cost an insane amount of money. For example, $1 million US. These are companies that would require the CEO in person to negotiate these deals, in person. For instance, if NASA would like to buy a rocket from SpaceX. Then we've got like personal sales, and these are sales of products that would accept for the sales representatives to go in person and speak to customers. Then we have distribution doldrums. These are companies that make products that are very affordable and very cheap, and the customer would usually buy over and over. And so these companies use strategies like television adverts, use strategies like speaking to suppliers to market their products for them. However, it is important to note that very many companies fail, not because the products are bad, but really because they have a poor distribution strategy. So I promise we'll talk about Tesla and why Tesla became the most successful green company. And the first is the engineering question. Why did Tesla become successful? Number one, their technology, their proprietary technology, was far better than what was already at the market at the time. We already spoke about the Tesla Roadster, and when it came out, the kind of competition that it was facing. And obviously, most people that loved driving beautiful, luxury, high-speed, high-tech cars loved the Tesla Roadster, but still, felt good inside because they were doing something that was good for the environment, and that is why it was successful. Number two, we have the timing question. If you look at Tesla, in around 2009, the United States government was pushing to support companies that are green, right? And that is how Elon Musk was able to secure a loan of about $465 million US from the US Department of Energy. But just a few years after that, those grants were scrapped off. The third is the monopoly question. Can this company be a monopoly? And for Tesla, it was obviously yes. The fourth is the people question. Does this company have the right team? Just like Elon Musk put it, if you come to work for us, if you come to work for Tesla, it's like working for the Marines. There's the regular army, but then there is the Marines. The distribution question. Tesla decided to go with a distribution strategy like Apple did, where they decide to control everything from manufacture to distribution of the product by setting up independent shops where you can go buy a Tesla. The next question is the durability question. Will this company survive 10 to 20 years from today? If you're talking about Tesla, they have already been around for over a decade, and that is because the kind of products they're making are products for the future. Secret question. What was the secret? So the secret that Elon Musk knew was that people wanted to drive electric cars, but they still wanted to drive cool cars, fast cars, beautiful cars. There is certainly a lot that I have not spoken about when it comes to the book 0 to 1. 110%, I do recommend that you go ahead and read this book.
I know you have found something. A sense of peace.
Okay, now you are going too far now.